Hi guys, my name is Mayana and today I am going to be doing a vlog. So I thought it would be fun if I read some romantasies. If you don't know what romantasy is, it is romance fantasy. It is a genre popularized by TikTok. I believe it probably was popularized before then, but I'm not like too familiar with that genre, so I'm not gonna I'll do some research and then I'll speak about all of that. I decided to read this because it is a very popular genre on BookTok and I really want to be a fan of this genre, but for some reason I just am not. I feel like with romantasy, they just focus so heavy on the romance versus the fantasy, which is kind of the fucking point. But I feel like it's to the point where the fantasy aspect is just underdeveloped. Like, it's just these authors throwing these characters into a fantasy world and not really like developing the world or the magic system or any of like really the side characters, and the point is just to focus on the romance between the main characters. And it's like, I love romance, I love fantasy. I don't necessarily need both of them. Like, I'm not the kind of person who's like, oh, if there's no romance, I'm not reading it. That's just not me. But I do like romance. I don't hate it. Like, I do like romance. It's one of my favorite genres, and I love fantasy. It's one of my favorite genres, so I want to love romantasies. But I just feel like it's always so undeveloped, and like the books are always just so fucking boring. There's never really any good plot. So I decided, you know, let me pick some popular BookTok books. These are actually some books that I've been wanting to read for a long time, but I was like, let me make a vlog out of this because I think it will be entertaining. So I decided that I'm going to be reading The Hurricane Wars, Fall of Ruin and Wraith, The Throne of the Fallen, The Serpent and the Wings of Night, and 5 Broken Blades. I'm very excited to read all of them. 4 of them I do have on my Kindle. I got some of them through my library, and then this one I have an ARC of, and I'm just very excited for this experience. I hope to come out of this to be at least a semi-fan of romantasy. Like, I don't want to just be like, oh, I just don't like the genre at all and I don't read it. I want to come out of this and be like, okay, so I just need to be more picky what I pick up or really read the reviews. Like, I want to love these books. Like, they just sound so fun and they're pretty and I want them on my shelves. Like, please romantasy guys, bestow your, I don't know, I want to love it. Okay, now we're just gonna get into the vlog. Let's hope that I come out of here with some W's. Okay, for some reason my battery is only on 11%, even though I always charge my, what is this thing called, my camera. But we're gonna talk about the first book that I'm reading. So the first book that I'm reading is The Hurricane Wars. I started this because, oh, look at my Kindle. Ugh, I love her. She's such a baddie. I designed her myself. I started reading The Hurricane Wars because I am obsessed with the Acolytes, the Star Wars show Acolytes, because it's set in the High Republic era. So I have been really excited for it for a while. But unfortunately, being a fan of Star Wars in an era where they are trying to be diverse is like being in hell. All the like bigoted fanboys who hate that things are now getting diverse, like, they're hating on it because there's like one white character that I can think about. There's like no white people in this show. I just realized that. Maybe that's why I'm having fun. I think the show is good. First of all, it's set in my favorite era, which is the High Republic era, which I've only read about in books. Second of all, the characters are hot, okay? And they have a hot villain, okay? So I stand. So because the show has a hot villain is also compared to Kylo Ren a lot, but the villain is hotter, okay? He's referred to as a stranger in the Acolytes. He is hotter. I had already got this idea like, oh, well, if he's compared to Kylo Ren, maybe I should read some more Reylo fan fiction, because I accidentally read a lot of published Reylo fan fiction. So I was like, wait, let me read more like published Reylo fan fiction. I've low-key read a lot. One that I had came across was the Hurricane Wars, and I actually had started this literally last week, and I read 1 chapter and I was like, I don't give a fuck. So then I stopped reading it. But then I kept thinking about this book, and then somebody on my timeline was like, oh, like, I'm gonna fan cast Prince, what is his name, Azrael, Alaric. Who's Azrael? They were like, oh, I'm gonna fan cast Prince Alaric as the stranger. And so I was like, oh, that maybe I should pick up the book. Maybe I should not have. I am 200 pages into this goddamn book, and I'm gonna explain this to you. It's gonna sound like I'm talking to you as if you're an idiot. That's because that's how I read fantasy books. Dumb fantasy down for myself in order for me to like understand it. So it's gonna sound like I'm explaining this book to you, and it's gonna sound like, oh, does she think I'm a fucking idiot? No, I think I'm a fucking idiot. My camera's dying. I guess I'll be back. I'll go do something else and then I'll be back. Honestly, I forgot what I was saying, but before I get into it, I look bald. I'm not. Before I get into it, I just want to say that if you are a fan fiction author and you happen to be watching this vlog, you need to develop your characters, beloved. Okay, not everybody is gonna know that your book is a fan fiction. Not everybody's gonna know the source material that your book is full from. Therefore, you need to put in the work of develop your characters. You need to give your characters personalities. You need to give them motivations outside of whatever the fucking plot is. Talk about their family and, you know, things like that, or else we're gonna be fucking confused. This book is about this girl who has the power to like wield light. People who can wield light and people who can wield darkness are like at war, and I guess the people who are wielding darkness are the ones who are like winning. And so I forgot what happened in the prologue because I read it a week ago and then I DNF'd it, and then when I reread it I was like, I'm not about to reread the first chapter, so I kind of don't remember what was in there. Yeah, so in the second chapter she ends up literally straight off the gate, she ends up fighting the love interest. His name is Aloric, her name is Taliesin. Yeah, so they just straight off the bat end up like fighting. Also, when you look up fan art of this book, I guess I could just put the book cover on here. When you look up fan art of this book, it's literally Raylo. Like, at least other Raylo books I like look like and kind of look like them. I think also because it's a fantasy book, so they can get away with like a lot. He is like consistently described as like super big. Like, he's twice the size of me. He's super tall. He's super big. Da, da, da. Bitch, if I was her, I'd be scared. Okay. I love a good height difference. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love a good height difference. But I too have my limits. Surprisingly, right? Very surprisingly, I too have my limits. And like, he definitely is exceeding those limits. Okay. I end up like getting into this fight, and then she like goes back to her friend, and she's like, she was going on a mission. She was going somewhere to do something. Like, she had like two goals. One goal was to see if they had dragons, and then the other goal was something else, and I completely forget what the goal is, mainly because I was reading this at like 4 a.m. Also because she immediately runs into Aloric like on her little mission that she went on, so whatever she was trying to do was like threw out the window. So then like 150 pages they're like together, and she's like, oh my gosh, are you gonna kill me? And he's like, yes, I'm gonna kill you, because he can wield darkness. So their powers are exactly polar opposites of each other. So then she ends up finding the dragons and the dragon queen, and the dragon queen is like, hey, you guys actually should get married because he has darkness and you have lightness, and together that power can be like insane. And then they're like, oh my gosh, no, like I don't want to marry him. And she's like, and he's like, no, I don't want to marry her, like I want to kill her, like because of what like the lightness has done to my family, because you know, from his perspective, like it like ruined his life, and like it made his father a monster. And to her, like darkness, like darkness, like they also are ruining her life. Like, I can say that this is true enemies to lovers. Like, I can give the book that, like, it is true enemies to lovers. It does have a lot of faux dumping at that also. Like, there's so much to remember. That's also a reason why I'm like explaining this as if I was talking to like a fucking idiot, because there's so much to remember and going on in only 200 pages. It's like, oh my gosh. And then on top of that, I'm also I'm also comparing it to Star Wars, because I'm trying to see like, okay, how did you go, because that's my favorite thing about reading like published fan fiction, is being like, okay, but how did you go from your source material to this? So I'm trying to figure out like what is influenced by Star Wars. Like, his power is called shadow forging, and then her power is called light weaving, which I think is funny because it reminded me of lightsabers. I don't think that was on purpose, but yeah. So I think that the book is interesting. Like, the enemies to lovers is like pretty decent. Like, it's not bad. I just think that like their characters don't have any like foundation. They don't have any surface, because there's nothing more to him than being a shadow forger, and nothing more to her than being a light weaver. So yeah, 200 pages, and then it's like I have 200 pages more to go, but it's a gloomy day. I was just listening to Megan Thee Stallion. I've been listening to her album like non-stop, so I've been having like a lot of fun doing that. But I'm gonna get back to reading because I'm also excited for the other books that I have. Okay, I just finished that God-forsaken book, and I gave it 2 stars. Okay, I like took a break from reading it because like I've ranted about it a bit on Twitter, and after that I was like, I don't want to read this. But I finished it, and honestly, I have so many complaints. I don't want to spoil it, so I'm not going to talk too much about the book itself, just in case anybody wants to read it, because I don't think it's a bad book, and I definitely do think it has an audience out there. Being the audience being people who don't really read fantasy, Raylo fans, people who haven't read a book in about 15 years, people who like shit, people who only read fan fiction and they want to get into published works, and probably more than that, right? But this book was quite literally shit. There's nothing behind these characters besides being like Raylo characters, and you can like very much see that if you've watched Star Wars. And I don't hate Raylo books. One of my favorite books of last year, I just found out yesterday, was a Raylo book. I would have never known it if I didn't find like a list of Raylo books. But The Love Hypothesis, I love that book. So it's not even that I don't like Raylo books, I just don't like this book. There was like nothing that happened. I feel like this book, I have so many thoughts, I have so many complaints. I feel like this book could have been edited down a lot. And the first few, so like, okay, so you have when the characters meet in the beginning and they fight, and then she decides she's just gonna go find and see if there's like dragons, and they run into each other again. That could have been cut out. I know that the author like wanted to have them like keep having like warnings or whatever. That shit could have been cut out because they end up like being in an arranged marriage. So the author could have just had them, so the author could have just had them have that fight, and then people see like, oh, their powers together could be really powerful, then we're gonna set up the arranged marriage. Because there's like 200 pages, the first 200 pages, and then there's the arranged marriage, and I feel like it could have been introduced a lot sooner. And then from like 200 to literally 400, so about 200 more pages, or 100 more, 200, yeah girl, I'm sorry, it's 1 a.m. I'm not that great at math. 200 more pages, absolutely fucking nothing. There's like no conflict in this book. So I'm not gonna say there's no plot, because they have to get married for like politics or whatever. There's no like conflict in the book. And so then from there it's just them like about to get married, and then 400, well not even page 400, but 400 pages in, they get married. There's smut at the end, so 90% there's smut. And then the book ends, and the very last page is introduced the new conflict, which is that I was like, oh, I'm not gonna spoil anything, I don't give a fuck, not about to spoil, which is that the dad of Alarg wants like he wants to use Taslin, and he wants to basically use her for her power and then take her power. And so that's introduced. But really I feel like what could have happened with this book was I feel like the book could have started, and then it could have been the fight scene between the two, and then somebody could have been like 50 pages, and then somebody could have been like 50 to 100 pages, and then somebody could have been like, oh, their powers together are really cool, they could really make something, let's have them do that, let's have the arranged marriage. They get the arranged marriage, maybe there's like 50 pages of them discussing it, and then they get married right then and there. And then maybe about 100 pages after that, the dad is like, let's use her for her power, and then the rest of the book is whatever the fucking sequel is gonna be. I just feel like there's no need for a sequel. Like, there's literally nothing that happened in this book. Why the fuck would I sit through another book? And then it's like, you can tell that this book is like, you can tell, like if you read fan fiction, you can tell that this book is fan fiction. Like, you can tell this author wrote fan fiction. And I read fan fiction heavily. There's nothing wrong with fan fiction, but for me, I like to have a separation of church and state. I like to have a separation of I like my fan fiction to be my fan fiction and my published books to be my published books. When I read fan fiction, I don't want to be like, oh, I don't have any standards for them, because absolutely I do. But when I read fan fiction, I know what I'm going in for. I'm very familiar with the characters. There's a lot for them to work with. There's a lot of things that I do allow to happen, but I'm not saying that I let things, I'm like, just read anything, I let things slide or whatever, and I just find anything good. That's not true, because I feel like that's an insult to fan fiction authors. But when I read published books, I have really, really high standards, because this is now published. You are now getting paid for this. You now have to have your own story, your own plotline, your own characterizations. They need to have their own backstories, their own wants in life, their own things that they like in life, like things like that. You can't base that off of something that's already there. Okay, I was only given 15 minutes to get ready, so I gotta make this quick. We're going to the carnival today. I'm very excited. I went for the first time last year and I had so much fun. There's so much food there. Like, I love carnivals. So, yeah, I was only given 15 minutes to get ready though. So, Apple. Oh, okay, she's not away. So, I did start Jennifer L. Armentrout's book last night, Fall of Ruin and Wrath. Sounds like every other fantasy book, but I don't know how I feel. I got like 20 pages into it. I usually try to do my updates when I at least have like 50 pages, but I'm gonna be reading all day when I go to the carnival, or I'm gonna be trying to read throughout the day, so I'm not gonna be able to like check in. I might be able to, I don't know, but I just want to film this just in case. I don't know what the book is about. Usually when I start like a book, I read on my own for about 50 pages, and then after like 50 pages I get annoyed and I'm like, oh, what is this book about? Like, what is this book even about? So then that's when I start looking into what the book is about, and I hadn't reached that point yet. So I have no idea what this book is about. It's a little like, I literally couldn't even tell you. Like, it's just, oh, the character's being introduced. I don't even know the character's name. There's somebody named Claude, and I'm hoping that's not the main character because that is such an hideous name for a love interest. If that's his fucking name, I'm gonna be pissed. Okay, like, what a hideous fucking name for a love interest. But I don't know the main character's name. I think I'm on chapter like 3. Just know that she's something like a lowborn, and Jennifer L. Armentrout explained it, but I was reading this book in the middle of the night, so I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. I might have to reread that because I don't know what the fuck she's talking about. But also, Jennifer L. Armentrout does this. Oh, there's so much water coming out of this. Jennifer L. Armentrout does this thing where she like info dumps the fuck out of you, and so I literally have no idea what's going on. I don't know, like, there's things called like lowborn, highborn, and celestials, and I'm thinking of it as like I put so much, oh my gosh, and it got in my hair. I'm thinking of it as like a way of oh, that put so much sunscreen on. Oh my god, I'm gonna look ghastly. But yeah, I'm thinking of it as like different types of like, oh, like how you have lower class, middle class, and upper class. I'm kind of thinking of it as that, except like it determines a lot more. But like she's somewhere she doesn't need to be. Like, I think she's like a lowborn living with a highborn or some shit like that. I really don't know. I really don't know. Okay, like, I'm sorry. That's what happens when I pick up a book in the middle of the night. But all I know is, I don't know if the love interest has been introduced. I really hope it's not fucking Claude, because bitch, that is fucking unsexy. And then everything I read last night kind of feels like a fever dream. I'm not even gonna hold you up. I was up until like 7 a.m. and then I went to bed, so I didn't even read. Oh my god, I look ghastly, and I'm wasting my time. I wasted about 3 minutes. Like, hopefully my foundation hides this. Ugh, I'm going through so much today. I'm being rushed. Like, what the fuck, bro? But I really hope that Jennifer L. Armentrout doesn't disappoint. I don't think she's gonna. I don't know. I'm not really like, the vibe I'm getting from it so far, I don't think it's gonna be that good. Like, I'm sorry. I do fuck with Jennifer Armentrout. Like, I know a lot of people hate it from Blood and Ash. I thought it was fun, but that's mainly because I was reading it in the middle of the night, like for a few nights, and then I was like, oh, this shit is kind of like whack. And then out of nowhere I was like, this shit is actually not that bad, even though it is. Oh my god, I look terrible. My god. Okay, I fixed the Casper problem. So I also went and looked at the description of the book, and this book seems to be, the girl's name is Callista, which I have not figured that. I'm like 30 pages in, have not found that out yet. But apparently there's something called like the Baron, and he takes interest in her because she can, like, her intuition is really good, which is like, girl, me too. And he like takes interest in her, and it can either ruin people's lives or save them. And then the prince becomes interested in her. Well, the prince becomes interested in like what's going on, and which means he ends up becoming interested in her. And yeah, it's just about her having really good intuition and living in this world, and the prince being interested. So like literally typical, like literally a typical fantasy romance. Like nothing new. No shade, no shade, no shade, no shade. That's not a shady. Yeah. So why the fuck is this book like 500 pages in? Is what I want to figure out, because if you're not bringing anything new to the table, why are you here? But the thing about fantasy romance is like they're never like they never like I don't know, they play on like popular fantasy tropes, but like the point, okay, I don't know if we're doing that this side of my face, because this side of my face be fucking with me. They like never try like anything like new. Like the focus in fantasy romance is always like the romance, and like I'm a romance reader, but like I just love fantasy down, and like I want a book that like heavily focuses on the fantasy, and like I don't even need romance. Like if I want romance, I can read a romance book. Like I used to be one of those girlies who were like, oh, if it doesn't have romance, then oh, I can't read it. But then I grew the fuck up, to be honest. Like I really don't give a fuck now. Like, and I used to never understand like when people would be like they don't need romance in their books. Like I never got it. I was like, no, I need romance in my books. But now, like as somebody who's been reading for years and I've read so many books, I've read over 1,000 books since like 2017, and I really just don't have a need for romance anymore. Like, I'm not saying I don't want it, not saying I hate it, but it's like I like if a book doesn't have romance, then like okay, like I'm not gonna fucking cry about it. Okay, so we just got back from the carnival. It is, my phone is charging. It is 10:31. We just got back. I read about 100 pages of The Fall of Ruin and Wraith. And girl, this is boring. But I want to finish it because I already started it, and I read pretty fast anyways, and there's really nothing going on in this book. I did not vlog anything at the carnival because I spent most of the carnival like literally eating and reading, because we were waiting for Jake to get there because his family just moved an hour away from us and they wanted to get there around like 5. So we were just sitting there like eating. We ate so much, you guys. I gained 3 pounds, which is so good because I've really been like trying to like gain weight and I've been struggling with that. So it was like really nice. The food was like so good. Like I went like cannot wait for next year already. And yeah, so I read 26% of the book, and then I read a little bit more on the car ride home as well. The book feels like From Blood and Ash, but like with a lot less plot, which is already saying a lot, because From Blood and Ash doesn't really have a plot, I'm not gonna lie. And it was okay with that one because I don't know, that one at least had like a lot more interesting things going on. I feel like this main character is like exactly like Poppy. Like she's very like innocent and sweet, but like very boring, and like doesn't really have much of a personality. So I think this book is probably just for like pure like smut, which is like fine, but it's like there's nothing. I don't understand how people are reading this book 5 stars, because it's not fun. There's nothing going on. The chemistry is really not there. I think after this, I think I'm just done with Jennifer Armentrout, unless she writes a book that everyone is just like, oh my gosh, this was so amazing. Because like I'm checked out of the From Blood and Ash series. I don't care about the Flesh and Fire series. Like the first book was fine, but her writing just doesn't like withstand. And then also I heard she had an editor in this book, but I think the editor should have edited out a little bit more, because this book doesn't need to be 400 pages. Like I'm literally 100 pages in, there's nothing happening. I don't know anything about the characters. It's literally just people talking the entire time. Like there's nothing going on, so it doesn't need to be here. I'm probably gonna spend the rest of my night reading this, and I'll probably be back tomorrow once I'm finished. I want to do like a middle update, but y'all, I'm gonna take my makeup and this wig off. Y'all is not seeing me for the rest of the night. Sorry, I'm about to put my scarf on. Y'all are not about to see me for the rest of the night. Like, I don't know what to tell you. So I just slapped my wig on, okay? So if it looks like I just slapped my wig on, it's because I did just slap my wig on. Because I do not want my updates to just be, oh, here I am, I'm 50 pages into the book, this is how I'm feeling. Oh, this is how I'm feeling like 100 pages into the book, and then I jump to the end, because I feel like I don't want there to be like a huge stark difference in like how I'm feeling. Bitch, it's kind of cold in here. not even saying there's a huge stark difference, but also there's so much, even though nothing goes on, there's so much that I want to remember to say, and then I usually like forget it and I leave something out. Or sometimes I end up sitting here talking for 12 fucking minutes about absolutely nothing. So maybe if I throw some updates in here or there, maybe I'll stop talking for so much, which I doubt because I love to talk. But I am 50% through the book, and I already, like, some big issues I have. You don't know the main character's name. I thought I was tripping. Like, I was like, why the fuck do I not know this bitch's name? Like, what the fuck? You don't know her name until about page like 150. That's like maybe 30% in. Also, the love interest is not introduced. His name is Prince Thorn. He's not introduced to around that time either. So basically the first 150 pages are fucking useless. You don't know the main character's name. The love interest is not introduced, so you're just, these are characters just sitting and talking and like flirting. And then like also when he's being introduced and she's like giving him like service or whatever, so they just met. Basically this book was written for smut, which like that's fine. That's just like not my cup of tea, like especially in romantasy. And if you're gonna make it written for smut, at least make it interesting, okay? These are characters that just want to fuck each other. These are characters that just want to bone, okay? And you know what, that's fine, that's your cup of tea, but at least make it interesting, at least make it fun. I'm sitting here for 150 pages being like, okay, this is just characters talking and like flirting. Like, okay, what the fuck? I can go do that on fucking Tinder if I wanted to. Like, what? I'm already not fucking with her, but I'm already halfway through, and it is easy to read. Like, it is. I was flying through it last night. It was so nice because my body was so tired last night, so it was so nice to just sit there and like lay down and just read. But I want something fun now. Like, where are the good? And then this was nominated for a Goodreads Choice Award. Bitch, clearly you can just, once you become an established author, we need to be doing an experiment on like what established authors, like established popular authors, are allowed to get away with and are allowed to do once they have established themselves. Because this book is not fucking good. Like, even if you go, like, I think the reviews are high. Like, if the rating might be like, I think like maybe it might be high 3 stars, maybe even 4. I think the TikTok bitches need to get the fuck on. Like, I am so sorry. Like, now books are being like, like if I see a book is rated 4 stars, I'm like, okay, so this is objectively a good book. And then because of TikTok, now people are coming on here just rating books high. Not everyone has to read critically, like that's fine, but now people are coming in here rating books high, and then I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well, this is objectively a good book. I read it, it's a piece of shit smashed between pages. What the fuck? Like, yeah, so this was, I don't even know if this won, because Goodreads put a romantasy category in there, which is good because now Sarah J Maas can stop winning the fantasy category every time she publishes a fantasy book that year. And I just can't. Like, this book is not deserving of being even thought about being entered in a Goodreads Choice Award. I need to figure out who the fuck won, who won the romantasy Goodreads Choice Awards. Okay, Fourth Wing won best romantasy. Oh yeah, I should have known that. I need a good romantasy book before I lose my fucking mind. We're literally going to ignore the fact that my wig is horribly glued down. So yeah, I finished The Fall of Wraith and Ruin. Ruin and Wraith, what the fuck ever. I don't give a fuck. I finished this stupid ass book. I gave it 1 star because I just think it was fucking stupid. Like, nothing happens after like when I update from when nothing happened then. It's literally just characters talking and doing shit and like getting sexual. The character, she's just like super intuitive, and it's like, okay bitch, so are humans. Like, humans are intuitive. Like, what do you think the phrase mother's intuition comes from? I guess it would have been cool, but it's just like, it just was useless. Like, there was no reason for her to use her power because nothing fucking happens in the book. Like, there's no like conflict, so there's really no reason for her to have to like use her power. Like, and then it would just be like, oh, like it'll be like a character coming around the corner, oh, my intuition is telling me, bitch, that's, girl, fuck you. Like, fuck you, actually. Pissed me the fuck off. Yeah, so I gave it 2 stars. 1 star. I didn't even give it 2 stars. At least the Hurricane Wars got 2 stars because at least the enemies to lovers, I think, was actually enemies to lovers. And I think if the book wasn't absolutely fucking boring and useless, that like, if it actually had like conflict, that like I could have saw potential, like 3 star for that book. So at least with the Hurricane War, like, it had potential. fucking what's that book called? Fucking Wrath, Fall of Ruin and Wrath. Literally has no potential. Like there's nothing that we could work with there. The enemies to like the romance, it was literally insta love. Like at least with, I want to call it the Poppy War so bad because the main character's name is Poppy. At least with From Blood and Ash, at least with that, she tried to do enemies to lovers. It didn't work. It was absolutely terrible. But at least she tried to do enemies to lovers with that. Really want to like fantasy romance, but my issue is that there's never, and I know that romance fantasy and fantasy romance are two different things, but to me they kind of like aren't. Like from what I've seen, they both kind of like focus like, I know the point of romance fantasy is that the romance is heavier than a fantasy, and that fantasy romance is that the fantasy is heavier than a romance, but to me it just always feels like the focus, like either or, the focus is always on like the romance, like it's always romance heavy. I feel like the perfect like romantasy or fantasy romance to me is Sorcery of Thorns. Yeah, I really hope that I like the last 3 books that I have to read, because if not, I'm going to fucking lose it, bitch. I just finished my 50 pages. Apple's here. Say hello, Apple. I'm watching that 90s show. It's very terrible. I was a huge fan of that 70s show. Also, Jackie literally raised me. Like, look at my personality and then think about Jackie. Come on now. That 90s show isn't that great. It's not great at all, actually. The drama is good. It has a love triangle, and you guys know I love a love triangle. And Ozzy is literally the funniest character in this show. He's the only reason why I'm still watching this, because without him, like he has good, I don't really know what comedic timing means, but he has good comedic timing, I guess, and like his jokes always land, whereas the other jokes don't. But that's not what this is about. Sorry. I literally am like crunched on time for this vlog, because editing it, I'm trying to keep this vlog under an hour, or at least like not an hour and like 20 minutes. So I'm like literally crunched on time, and I was like, you have to stop talking so much. And then I continued to talk so much. I am now reading The Throne of the Fallen. I am 50 pages into it. So far, I don't know much about it. I've just been introduced to the 2 characters, Camille and her love interest, Envy. I have read Kingdom of the Wicked, and I did like the first book. I thought it was really fun, even though the writing is shit. I think the writing is a little bit better here, actually. And then I liked the second book, but not as much. And then I didn't even want to bother reading the third book because I didn't hear good things about it. And I also just lost interest. But I do like Carrie Maniscalco. I do think that she has potential to write good, like a really, really amazing story. I just wanted to read it. I like reading her work, I guess. I think her books are really fun, and I think that her romances are always really good, so I thought, why not? I do kind of hate that, this is an issue I have with Kingdom of the Wicked. I do kind of hate that they're named after like their sin, like they don't have any like names or anything like that. Like I think they could have even like, she could have even given them like names that were similar to the sin so that people could like catch on to it. But I also get that, because I think that would be a lot of work, like trying to be like, oh, this guy is Envy and this guy is Pride. So I do think it makes more sense if they go by like, I just think it's lame. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm not like, oh my gosh, Envy, or like, yeah, I'm so in love with Envy. Like, girl, fucking like, girl, bye. So yeah, I do, the way that she's writing this book does make it like pretty easy to get back into this world as someone who hasn't read it in literal years. I do find it easy, and she also like re-explains some things which I really like. I don't remember the story being like a historical romance, like they have like viscounts and the way that they talk. I don't remember Kingdom of the Wicked being like that. But because I'm kind of in my historical romance era, where it's like I want to read historical romance, but for some reason I just can't like pick them up, and like I'm still coming off of like my Bridgerton like era, because I just finished that. I do think that this kind of like fits. I'm very intrigued so far. Like so far, Envy has commissioned Camille to work for him, and he wants her to like paint her throne, but he doesn't like know how to necessarily ask her. I find it very interesting so far. There's nothing that's been really introduced. The way that the book has like a prologue, and then it had like an intro chapter, and then the book starts. Like I was like, okay, this is a bit like dramatic, but Other than that, like, I think it's fine. I gotta keep these clips under 5 minutes, so I have nothing else to say, unfortunately. But I am very excited. Also, I can finally, like, I had this wig on all day because I was like, I am not about to come on here looking a mess. Like, I'm sorry. So I kept my wig on all day, and I'm about to go take my makeup and my wig off. Also, I want to see what I look like with my wig in this low lighting. I love this low lighting. I wanted to do like my wrap up in this low lighting, but I noticed when I edit it, my movements are a little bit slower. I just love like this lighting with like my makeup. It just feels like very like chill and like relaxed. I am now halfway through the book. I literally was like, okay, I'm gonna spend all day reading. Low-key, it's been like really hard because I find this book like very boring. Like, even in the middle of reading this book, I got a video idea for a video essay partially because of this book. So I don't know when this video is gonna be uploaded, so I'm not really gonna talk about the video essay, but I think I'll probably talk about the book in the video essay, or I'll probably talk about it in my wrap up. So basically, Envy ends up being like cursed by a fairy, and so he's sent on like these, he has to like play like these games and stuff like that, and then he ends up having to like work with Camilla. And I just feel like I really like the world, and what's this girl's name, Carrie Mascalco. I like her writing in this. It's definitely gotten a lot better. I feel like her writing was kind of shit in them other books. And I liked her other books, like Stalking Jack the Ripper series. I have fun reading those. I end up getting rid of my copies, though, because the rest of the series, to me, went downhill. And low-key, when I said that, people got mad at me because of my opinion. Like, people on the internet, people in the book community are so annoying because they will literally get mad at you because your opinion doesn't align with theirs. But anyways, and then I liked Kingdom of the Wicked. Actually, I gave the first book 4 stars, and I think the second book 3 stars, and I didn't bother reading the last one because I just heard the reviews were just genuinely shit. And so I think the writing in this one is better. I really like the world. I think that is very interesting. I think that is very creative because all of these are all based off of the 7 sins. So you got, like, I'm not gonna list all 7 of them, but you got pride, sloth, I'm gonna say grief. Pride, sloth, envy, wrath. This one actually follows envy. And I really do like this. I love jealousy scenes, and so because he's envy, like, there's always like there's a lot of jealousy scenes, and I do eat those up. But I think romance wise, I find this couple very, very fucking boring. Don't understand why they're so fascinated with each other. They're fascinated with each other from like the beginning, and I am glad that this book has plot, but there's also just like a lot of smut, and I just don't care for it anymore. Like, I don't care about the smut, and I don't care about the romance. So, and the plot is decent, but it's like nothing else, you know. And I can see myself reading the rest of the books in the series. I might even buy the copy because the book is so beautiful, and it's not a bad book. I can see myself giving it 3 stars, maybe even 3.5 stars. So it's not a bad book. It's just the fact that I don't think I like this couple. But hopefully the next book, like, is better. Also, I'm wondering, how the fuck are you gonna make sloth sexy? That's what I want to know. Okay, so I finished Throne of the Fallen, and I just gave it 3 stars. Like, I'm just so sorry. Like, I wanted to like it so bad. Everyone's giving it like 4 stars, and I think the plot line is good, but it's just, and I am a plot driven person, but I just feel like the characters weren't doing it for me. Like, for me, sometimes if the plot like sometimes if the plot is like really, really good and everything that's happening is really good, then I'll give a book like 4 or 5 stars. But for the most part, I really need like books to be like have a good plot and good characters. And if it's gonna be a romantasy, then I want a good romance, you know. So I feel like it had a good plot. The characters weren't terrible, but I just feel like their chemistry together just wasn't doing it for me. And it felt like these 2 characters were thrown into this plot line for smut purposes. Like, the author was just like, I want to do this, and then she didn't really think about the like romance, and I just feel like they fell in love, or they became interested with each other too soon. Like, I'm more of like a slow, if the book is going to be 600 pages, then I want like a slow burn. And even though they were together, and like even though they were interested in each other in the beginning, and it kind of was slow burn, it's just like I don't understand why they were interested in each other. My next book that I have to read is 5 Broken Blades, and good thing is my last 2 books for this vlog are like under 600 pages, because that one just like it took so much out of me. Like, y'all, I don't even want to do this vlog anymore. Like, I kind of hate that I picked 3 books, but I want to end this vlog off on a good note. Like, I want to end this vlog off with something like with a romantasy book that I at least gave 4 stars. Like, I don't want to just be this whole vlog being like, this book was stupid, this book was stupid, like for the entire video. So I am gonna give the last 2 books a try. I just really like, I'm a mood reader and I read in eras, so I usually pick like 3 to 5 books to read in that era. And so now I kind of want to read like slashers and like horror right now. And then I also have my NetGullies I need to get to, and then I also want to read my Star Wars books. So it's like I have so many other books that I want to read, and then these take like all day for me to read. I'm so used to me just taking like maybe 5 hours to read something and then I'll be done with it, but these genuinely take like all day and night. I just don't want to do this vlog anymore, but I think the vlog is like very interesting, and I don't want people to sit here and be like, oh, she's forcing herself to read these books, and like for you to not be interested in this vlog because I'm not interested. Whereas like this is an experiment, and I want to find out if I like romantasy, and I just feel like the books that I've been picking up just aren't the books for me, and I want to give everything a try. But god damn, these books suck. My god, I mean, the last book didn't suck, but it's like you got 2 duds and then a 3-star read. It's like, okay, where the fuck is the fun stuff? So listen, I'm really counting on this bitch. I'm really counting on this bitch, okay? And then Serpent and Wings of Night, and then I'm done. I have 2 more books and then I'm done. Yeah, I got a new wig on today because I was like, I just like want to keep switching up my look because I just had that one wig on for so long, and by like for so long, it's 2 months. But I read 50 pages of 5 Broken Blades, and I'm DNFing this bitch. Let me tell you what the book is about. So apparently, because I haven't even gotten that far, apparently this is like 6 of Crows. They're all put together to kill the God King. So I didn't get that far yet, but it literally starts off with this main character named Royal, who's an assassin, and like he literally was just really fucking corny to me. Like, he just read corny. I say this a lot: women cannot write men and men cannot write women. I just think that we just don't understand each other, and I feel like sometimes with women, they just go too hard with like a male main character instead of just making him like a normal fucking person. They just have to like go too hard, and so he just read very corny, so I already wasn't fucking with that. And then the book is a little bit too horny already, 50 pages in. I'm like, I'm here for a fantasy, like obviously it's a romantasy, I'm here for the romance and stuff, but it's already horny like a little bit in. And I read some of the reviews and people were like, yeah, like all 3 of these couples kind of get together like a little early on in the book. So it's 400 pages, it's not even slow burn. And then I was talking to Trey, I was talking to one of my friends, Trey, and he was like, yeah, I heard a lot of people say that the book doesn't even get good until 70% in. I'm not about to sit here for, this book is 400 pages, I'm not about to sit here for 300 pages just for a book to get good. Like, I'm sorry, but no, I'm DNFing it. I just feel like I'm just tired of wasting, like I really want to find like a good romantasy book, but I just don't think it's for me. Like, I feel like the plot lines are always super boring. It's always for like the smut and the romance. It's just really unfortunate because I want to like it so bad, but this is putting me in a reading slump, I feel like, because I just want to read like so many other things. I'm a mood reader and I read in like eras, and I just feel like this, I'm like getting out of this era, and I want to read, like I just want to read something because I feel like, is it me? Like, do I need to take a break from reading? I'm just not liking anything I'm reading right now. Yeah, so I'm just in this clip. I did read like 1 page of The Serpent and the Wings of Night, but it's not bad or anything. I just didn't feel like reading because I wanted to film. Okay, so I just got back from the library and I want to give you guys a library book haul. So I got Crest because I was watching Shitty Book Club and she read this series, and I had read the first 2 books and I really liked them, and I just stopped reading them for literally no reason. And then I saw Shitty Book Club and it just sounded so fun and like YA, and I got rid of my copies accidentally. Don't ask. Okay, so I picked this book up because I want to read it. The Ashes and the Star Cursed King. You would think I was illiterate. This is a lot tinier than I expected. I was looking for the first book at the library because I'm reading it for this vlog. I was looking for the first book, it wasn't there, and I got mad. So I was like, I'm gonna take the second book because somebody obviously has the first book, and when they're done with the first one, they're gonna want to read the second one. But no, you're not gonna be able to read the second one because I have the second one. Mind you, I have the book on my Kindle. I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read both of them, but I took it because I was mad. And I got Pirates of the Orange Tree, and I do own this book, but I accidentally glued my pages together. I'm a mess. I'm a damn mess now that I think about it. Also, my receipt, I saved $150. Truth of the Divine, I actually own the other 2 books, but I kind of checked out during the last one, so I was like, let me. And then third books, for some reason, like third books this year have not been eating like the first two books, so I was like, let me get this from the library before I buy it. The reformatory best friend Jake, he picked out 5 books and we're in teams of 2, and so everyone has to read those books, and at the end, I think like maybe in August, we're all gonna like have like a quiz, and whoever wins like a gift card. And so this is one of the books that was picked, so I picked this up. And then lastly, I have The Eye of the Darkness. I have been obsessed with the Star Wars show The Acolyte. I've been talking about it in all of my videos this month. Y'all are probably gonna be so sick of me, but it is based off of the High Republic era, and so that made me realize that I want to get back into the High Republic books, so I picked this one up. But yeah, that is my library book haul. I just wanted to share. I want to do like a little like come to the library with me vlog, but I feel like it would be awkward because I haven't vlogged any, like, not vlog, but I haven't made any like aesthetic vlogs for anything else throughout this vlog, so I feel like it was gonna be weirdly placed. So I figured I would just give y'all a haul and make this video somewhat interesting instead of me just complaining for probably like an hour. What did I put on my Kindle? I am 100 pages into Serpent and the Wings of Night, and actually it's not too bad so far. So I read like 50 pages last night, and then I decided I want to get to 100 pages because I'm about to do a 24-hour readathon, because I really need a break from romantasy. And I just figured, okay, if I give myself 24 hours to read everything else that I want to read, I feel like I can come back to this like rejuvenated, especially because I am finding this book very interesting so far. Like, even from like the differences that I've noticed from this book than all the other romantasies is that like the love interest isn't even introduced until like 80 pages into the book, so you spend 80 pages getting to know the main character and her life and her motivations. There's already a plot because this book is based off of trials. It's about this girl named Oriya who is a human born, but her father is a vampire because he essentially like adopted her, and so she doesn't feel like human, but she also doesn't feel vampire. She's entering these trials because the winner gets granted a wish, and she wants to be able to have like these vampire powers so that she can feel like safe in this world, because vampires do dominate this world. And so she already has like her own motivations, and there's already like so much world building, which I do appreciate. There is a lot of info dumping, which I should have expected, but it's not like annoying or bad. I find the main character, like, I don't find her like boring, or like I don't find her like Selena from Throne of Glass, where it's just like, oh, she's just like, she's trying to be a badass in the beginning, and it's like very clear that's not like, it's just, it wasn't fitting. She's also not like a Jude Duarte, you know, which I find very interesting. It reminds me of the Cruel Prince a little bit, actually, because her being this human in the world of like vampires. And that was one of my favorite aspects about the Cruel Prince, was Jude being this human in a world of fairy. And so I'm automatically very intrigued by this. I can see the similarities to the Cruel Prince without actually like being like plagiarized or copying, especially because I believe this is adult. And so I'm very intrigued. Like, I'm very interested, but I'm still gonna take my break so that way I can come back like with like an open mind. I also do think that the issue isn't solely on the fact that I was reading the same books over and over again. I do genuinely think those books just aren't for me, and then if I am going to be reading romantasy, then I really need to be checking for like the plot, and also checking to see how the romance works, because those are like the two most important factors about romantasy to me, is the making sure it has enough plot, but the romance is working the way that I want it. Like, if I'm gonna read a romantasy, I want the romance to be slow burn, and I want it to have like, you know, interesting scenes like throughout, like almost kissing scenes or like whatever. It doesn't always have to be enemies to lovers, but I would like an enemies to lovers, or a fun trope in general. But yeah, so far I'm very intrigued, but I'm gonna be taking my break, and hopefully I come back and I like love this book. It doesn't have to be a 5-star, it can be a 4-star. I just want to come back and be like, oh my gosh, you guys, like, I had so much fun reading this book, and I'm gonna give it 5-star. But yeah, so the next time I come back, it'll be like a whole 24 hours since I've read this book, but I'm about to read a bunch of other stuff. Okay, so I finished, oh, I removed it from my Kindle, but I finished The Serpent and the Wings of Night, and I gave it 3 stars. It's actually been a week since I've read this book. I did a 24-hour readathon last Wednesday for the 4th of July with my friends. Honestly, the 24-hour readathon didn't even go well. I didn't even complete it. Like, literally the next day, we all just kind of gave up. But I just didn't want to read this book anymore. I just didn't want to read romantasy anymore. I just don't find it fun. I feel like a lot of the plots are like very similar, and they don't really have plots, and I feel like a lot of it is just there for the smut and like for the romance, and like the plot just is like very like reused or very like paper thin, and it just gets boring after reading so many back to back to back. Also, for me, if I take too long to read a book, which too long for me is like 2 to 3 days, so if I take like too long to read a book, then I start to like lose interest because I'm a mood reader and there's so many other things out there. Like, whenever I'm reading a book, I kind of have to fit it into that window, unless like I'm reading a series and I become obsessed with the series and I gotta binge read everything. But once I like put that in my like time slot, I need to read that then and there, and if I stop to read something else, then I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna move on to like other genres. So I don't think I'm gonna continue on with this. I low-key just brought this from the library to be an asshole, and now I actually really feel like an asshole because I'm not gonna move on with the series, at least not right now. Maybe in the future. I just don't care for it. Like, I just don't care. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. I do think it's a good book, and if you are gonna read anything out of this vlog, I do recommend Serpent in the Wings of Night. I feel like it does have the strongest plot out of everything that I've read. I just didn't care. I was just so tired of reading like romantasy that I just didn't give a fuck. I was like, okay, well, I just don't care. Like, I'm sorry. So I think if you were to read anything, I will say Serpent and the Wings of Night and like Throne of the Fallen. But for me, I think romantasy is just not for me. Maybe, and it's so crazy because the time I got drunk and saved the demon, I love that book. I gave it 5 stars. I love the second book. They do read a bit corny after a while, so I did have to take a break and I haven't finished it. I might not read any more from the author because I don't like the titles and like whatever. It's not the point of this. So I think that romantasy is just not for me. It's not my genre. I think that if a romantasy is popular, I just need to skip it. Like, it's just not for me, and that's what I learned from this vlog. But just because something is not like for me, it's like I want to like it. I want to enjoy it. I just don't. So I might pick up some in the future, but for now, they're just not for me. Like, unfortunately. So yeah, that's it for this vlog. I'm really sorry that I kind of hated or didn't like all these books, and I wish it was like, I wish I had a book that I loved and I didn't. So yeah, I'm sorry, but don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.